So what was it like growing up Mormon?
Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing for me. It's not amazing for everybody,
Sure.
but I loved it. I mean, so I grew up in a very, very LDS family, very old LDS family. Like all my ancestors are LDS. If you go back to like, if you look at my family tree and you go back like 4 or 5 generations, I think at that level, every single one of my ancestors was like born and raised LDS. I don't know how far back you have to go to find someone who joined the LDS church. Mm-hmm. I'm named after my great, 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 great grandfather who was an early LDS convert, like in the days of Joseph Smith, and traveled with him across the West and that sort of thing. So it just was like, it was just everything, every aspect of our life was infused with the church. So we did there are very like kind of classic home observances that you have in the LDS faith. Like they encourage reading scriptures as a family every single day, which we did that one night a week. And this was more emphasized when I was a kid. I haven't heard it emphasized as much recently, but we would have something called family home evening.
Love it.
Where every Monday night, the family would get together, and it was structured. We would start with a prayer. We'd have some songs that we'd sing together. So one of my parents would present like a short gospel lesson, like teach us about the faith. And then we would play games and have a treat. That was family home evening. And we did that very consistently all growing up. We ended up having a big family. I'm the second oldest. So in my younger years, we were small, just a couple kids, but we were 8 kids in my family by the time I graduated from high school. And it was just fun, like lots of good friends. I grew up we moved around a bit when I was little, but by the time I finished elementary school, we lived in Utah, in Orem, Utah, which at the time was probably about the most LDS place in the country. In my high school, for instance, I had a very large group of friends, and I had one friend that wasn't LDS, and she joined the LDS church my junior year.
Okay.
I actually baptized her.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. It's important to say this, right? Because I know certainly a lot of people will come out and say how horrible it was being raised Catholic.
Yes.
And it's like, fair enough. People have different experiences, and people also have different parents, and some parents are horrible, and some priests are horrible, and some people are horrible, but it's good. It's like when people tell me how they've only had horrible experiences of priests, I can say with full objectivity that I never had a bad experience with a priest. I mean, the only bad experience I may have had is when I felt like he was a heretic, which is terrible, but never in the sense of, when I go to confession, I was never yelled at. I never had a priest like come on to me, as you hear people kind of never. It was always good. So it's important that we...
Absolutely. And I mean, I've known lots of people who have talked about, so, LDS culture can be very moralistic at times, and some people find that very difficult growing up. I always just kind of had that heart of like, being LDS gave me this vision of like who I was and who I could be, and I just wanted it, right? And so even in the times, as a teenager when I struggled with the things that teenagers always struggle with, sexuality and that sort of thing, to me, the teachings of the church and going through process of like trying to overcome vice was really life-giving. I thought it was great. Even uncomfortable things like meeting with church leaders to talk about, things I was struggling with. For some people, they end up carrying on this like deep shame, and that just wasn't my experience.
Yeah, you were met with understanding, compassion, encouragement.
Yeah. So, and it helped me, and I was able to overcome those things pretty easily at a young age. And so I was like, great, I had this, I mentioned my big group of friends, some of whom I'm still friends with today from high school, 25 years later. And we would, we just did all sorts of like silly, dumb teenage things, but we would also do things like meet every week to read scriptures together and go to church with each other and that sort of thing. So it was just a really beautiful way of growing up, and grew up in a really great place in a really nice time in the 90s, just as the internet
ruined everything.
Just as the internet ruined everything, right? I remember sitting at home chatting with my friends on AOL Instant Messenger in like 10th, 11th grade, something like that. For me, it was MSN Messenger. I don't know, AOL may have not made it across to Australia by then, but yeah. So that's kind of what high school was like.
Just quick side note. Remember when you would turn the modem on, it would make that terrifying sound?
Oh, yeah.
That was my accountability software back in the day, before Covenant Eyes, 2 a.m, trying to turn that thing on.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, what I remember is, trying to download a song from Napster
Yes.
And it would take like 20 minutes to download one song. And just when it was like 95% done, my mom would pick up the phone upstairs and kill the internet connection. And it's like, Mom, I almost had this like Weezer B-side that I was so interested in getting. You know, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, the early internet was awesome.
Hey, thank you so much for watching. Before you go, do us a favor, leave a comment, let us know what you thought of the video, like, and subscribe.